Joining us now from the Pakistani capital is political analyst Javed Rana. Javed, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Umar.
Javed, we were just watching a report on the killing of the Al Jazeera journalists. Firstly, I want to start with that. How are you looking at this latest situation? We've seen over 250 journalists killed by Israel, and now 5 more have been killed by the Israeli forces. How are you analyzing the recent actions made by the Israeli government?
Well, I think if we have to calculate all wars which were fought during last 1 century, World War I, World War II, Korean War, Afghanistan War, Libyan War, US attack on Libya, combining all these wars, the total number of the journalists killed in those wars and the total number of the journalists killed in this genocide of 2 years long genocide, it's a far more. That indicates the scale of this tragedy that is taking place, the scale of the tragedy that goes unnoticed in the world. Now, the problem is that the genocide is being live streamed. The killing of the doctors is being live streamed. The killing of journalists is being live streamed. What is action? Only action is just condemnation. And that shows the world is either helpless or complicit. By world, I mean the world leaders, nor the general public all over the world. Doctors are members of Hamas as per apartheid state Israel's charge sheet. Journalists are the members of the Hamas as per the charge sheet of apartheid Israel. Entire UN network, humanitarian network, which have been working for the decades in Gaza, they are members of the Hamas. Does it really make sense? Or it is obviously a method in the madness with which the apartheid Israel is getting all kind of impunity from the application of international law, from the application of humanitarian laws, from the application of basic human values. And it goes with the kind of a culture where the application of law is now becoming unthinkable. Unthinkable. Being once part of Al Jazeera, I have worked for Al Jazeera network for 4 years. And I remember and I can recall even the US was attacking Al Jazeera's correspondents in Afghanistan and other hotspots. Reason is that most of these journalists against whom US was trying to target them, they belong to Palestine. Now, these Palestinian citizens, people from the occupied Palestinian territories, they have the extraordinary talent. They have the extraordinary determination. Wherever they are working, they have turned out to be very enthusiastic journalists who have played with their life, but they have reported the facts. I know them personally, being once part of Al Jazeera, and so many Palestinian journalists, they are friends of mine. I know them. And we have seen that these Palestinians, they have given their blood, but they have told to the world what is happening in Gaza.
And Javed, you can kill the journalists, but you will not be able to erase the message that they have shown to the world, right? Because their message is going to stay forever, and people are going to learn from the Israeli atrocities, what Israel has done. So killing journalists will not solve the problem for Israel. So why is it still targeting those journalists?
I think this is what we think, that is the case. You're right. But this is not something that in the capitals of the apartheid state, they don't think like us. They think that by killing these journalists, they can silence the voice. They can stop these live streamings of the genocide. That is what they believe. Now, the problem is that since they are going to launch a far bigger operation inside the Gaza city, which by and large was not fully attacked, though it has been under attack in terms of the airstrikes. Now, that means this genocide would be at another scale. And that is why in advance they have to silence these voices who've been reporting from Gaza city. All these journalists are mostly based in Gaza city. That is where from journalists were operating. Now, these journalists have been reporting with starvation. I mean, many of them fainted while working. Umar, this is an extraordinary situation, something unimaginable. I cannot recall something like that happening and in any other battlefield, where in a very systematic manner, journalists are being not only being killed, they are also being starved to death. The entire population is being starved to death, but it goes unnoticed for the time being. It may be a militarily gains for apartheid state for a short term, but in the long run, mark my words, there would be large-scale violence against the Zionist network all over the world. This is going to happen. The scale at which the hatred exists against the Jewish community. This is ironical that I have to use the word of Jewish community to identify certain people. I think that was somewhere like maybe before the World War II. And I can recall that many Jewish communities, they've been protesting against this genocide. But I fear they would also be vulnerable for this violence, particularly in the USA, because there is a suppressed resentment. There is a pent-up feeling against the Zionist network. I think this is going to politically blow up sooner or later.
Javed, we're seeing the hatred against Israel now. The mainstream media is now highlighting the response of the public as well. And a few days ago, we saw Australia has also now said that it's going to recognize the state of Palestine. So when you combine these statements from Western governments, from countries like Australia, that they are going to recognize the state of Palestine, don't you think that now the world is choosing the right side? It should have done that from the beginning, but for 2 years, we've been seeing how Israel has killed the Palestinians in the occupied Gaza Strip and no one raised a voice. So what happens now, Javed? And then we also know that the UN General Assembly is coming up next month. So it's going to be a very packed summit where many countries are going to criticize Israel. What are your views about that?
I think the atrocities and the genocides have been committed at a scale where now the public opinion has turned so much against apartheid Israel that the world leaders who have been traditionally pro-Israel, there is a change of heart. More under pressure, more under compulsive condition, and not out of a free choice, because most of them, I would say, they've been compromised. You know the Epstein file. There are blackmailing tactics that Mossad has been using. There are dirty videos of these political leaders in Europe and in Washington that is in possession of Mossad. Because of those reasons, these political leaders are compromised. They are condemning it, but they are not undertaking any meaningful action. There is no sanctions against Israel. There is no trade blockage of Israel. There is no enforcement of ICJ and ICC's judgment against Israel. Had there been some semblance of ICC's judgment, I think things would have been different. Netanyahu have been moving all around the world, and that is an indicator that he enjoys the impunity from the application of international law. So in that context, I think we need to wait and see how things unfold. But certainly in the Western world, the governments are now feeling the heat. Reason being is that these humanitarian activists all over the world, they activated themselves on social media. They've been posting of what is happening in Gaza. That has changed the public opinion altogether. People are simply hating Israel. Now, it is a simply matter of time when they will take the law in their own hands. And I fear that there would be violence against the Zionist network all over the world, because they have crossed all the red lines of the fundamental values of humanitarianism. Now, they cannot say it is anti-Semitic, because that has been a method in the madness. Whenever you criticize Israel and whenever you point out there is a genocide, no, it is anti-Semitic. So this is a complete nonsense. I think now people are making fun of Israel whenever they say that it is anti-Semitic to criticize Israel.
Javed, but don't you think this show of support is merely symbolic? Because if countries say, okay, we will recognize the state of Palestine, that won't end the hunger in the occupied Gaza Strip, that won't end the massacres of the Israeli government. How are you looking at these decisions? Because sometimes they may seem as if they're merely symbolic. They will have no effect in the short run.
I think even something is better than nothing. The bigger question is that if they are so sincere, as you pointed out very rightly, then why they are taking so-called legal action against the pro-Palestinian protesters? Look at what the UK has been doing it. They have banned the Palestinian Action Committee, and there has been a legal action against the pro-Palestinian protesters. They've been arrested. There have been crackdown against the pro-Palestinian activists in the Britain. What does it really mean? It means that the Zionist network is very much active, and all these political leaders and the ruling class in the UK, they are compromised. They are still providing all kind of intelligence. I think from the Cyprus, the UK's plane have been flying over to Gaza and other parts of the occupied territories, and they are providing not only intelligence, but also they've been providing all kind of the supplies of the weapons. Look at the USA, which is obviously the key supporter of Israel. 70% of the genocide, I think the credit goes to the Americans, because their weapons are the highest in number, in quantity. And that shows that this is a very systematic hypocrisy that the Western countries over the period of that time have introduced to their people. But again, West has risen up. The people have risen up. That is a positive sign, which has come at the expense of the genocide of the Palestinians. But we have to also look at the other picture, the regional picture, the Arab countries who are partners in this crime. They were supposed to stop this. They were supposed to go for some kind of a trade blockade. That did not happen. I think the major responsibility lies onto the regional countries, and they have terribly failed. Rather, they have turned out to be the partners. UAE has been providing all kind of the intelligence to Mossad from Gaza. UAE, the Red Crescent, has been in Gaza, and what they are looking for, they are not doing any humanitarian work. They are working to gather maximum intelligence and then provide to the Mossad about the location of the members of the Hamas, about the launching pad from where Hamas has been carrying out rockets onto the Palestinian territories under the control of apartheid Israel. So in that context, I think the bigger questions need to be raised to the Arab monarchs. And look at the streets of the Arab countries. There is no protest, not because the people don't want it, because they have banned it. Even country like Pakistan, you cannot hold a pro-Palestinian protest. Universities have been banned. There have been protests in Pakistan in favor of Palestine, but that was more for the political reasons, because basically the military establishment wanted to send a message to the Americans that if we are not there, if you support the opposition parties' genuine demands of holding a free and fair election, because there was a rigging in the last elections, then there will be pro-Palestinian movements in Pakistan, which we are blocking. So again, the narrow political interest of the ruling class in all Muslim countries, with the exception of Iran, with the exception of Turkey, I think that has also played a very, very negative role in aggravating the sufferings of the Palestinians.
Political analyst Javed Rana, thank you so much for that analysis. It was a pleasure having you on another episode of Turkish Diplomacy.
The growing tide of anti-Israel sentiments. What you see behind me is just tip of the iceberg of what is happening in the country. More than half of $52 billion black CIA budget is spent on espionage network in Pakistan. How would you handle it?
The US has looked upon Pakistan as an ally at one point and then as an enemy at the same time.
That is going to be the first legal reason on the basis of which he is going to be instantly ousted by the Supreme Court of Pakistan.
Joining us live, Javed Rana, who's an expert on politics and geostrategic issues.
In the world politics, which is not being driven by any moral principle, it is being driven by the hard geostrategic realities. In a broader picture, more countries would aspire to have nuclear weapons.